So for today, it will be helpful. Make sure you're muted. We do love seeing you, so if you're willing to, please turn on your video. We will be using the chat, and our chat moderator is Allison Peter. And please complete our feedback survey. It really guides where this series goes. I wanted to kick things off by showing a little bit about what we did last week. So last week we had a virtual gallery walk, and this is some of the work of our participants. We made books last week, and we're going to do a different design challenge this week. And we used the Google slide deck, and we're going to try it again this week to do a virtual gallery walk. So it was fun to see different people submit their photos of their projects and share them with us via the slide deck. So we will be sharing a link to a slide deck a little later on about how to share in the slide deck, so we can do another gallery walk of what we produce today. And to get us started, let me go into present mode. For today, you'll need a few pieces of paper and some tape. Scissors are optional, so if you haven't grabbed those already, please go ahead and grab those. We had a big announcement this week from the CDE Foundation. Our STEAM Symposium is going to be a virtual event this year, and our call for proposals is open. So this really opens the door for anyone to present from all over the state, beyond the state, all over the world. We've had participants from all over the world participate in Lunch Bites, and we would encourage people to come share your passion with others. So if there's something you're passionate about, something you've learned in the last few weeks, we would highly encourage you to submit a presentation proposal. The deadline to submit is June 17th, so you have about a month to do it. It's a 5 to 10 minute proposal submission, so it's a pretty quick and easy process. And we do have some webinars about submitting a good proposal linked on steamcalifornia.org. Our foundation is also doing a Bridging the Digital Divide Fund in partnership with the Department of Education and the Governor's Office to support internet access and essential devices for students. And if you would like to make a contribution, you can, or if you know some organization that might be interested in participating, we'd love to hear from you. We also love to hear what you're doing with Lunch Bites and seeing people on social media, so please do share with us. With that, I'm going to turn it over to our co-host, Karen Warner. And I also want to share that we will be giving a prize away from the tech later in the episode if you participate in our virtual gallery walk or in the chat. And we'll announce that near the end of the episode. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Karen.
Thank you so much, Glennon, and I'm really glad to see everybody here. I see some names that I have seen in other episodes, and I see some new names, so I'm glad for everyone to be here. Today, in the next, about 27 minutes, we're going to see a quick demonstration. We're actually going to build something so that you can see how you can demo this kind of thing with your own students. And there'll be some takeaways and resources as well. So we've got a lot to do in a few minutes. It's really my pleasure to introduce today our guest, and this is Erica Barwedo, who is the Senior Director of the Bowers Institute at the Tech Interactive. And I've been enjoying getting to know her as we're preparing for this, and I'm excited for you to get to know her now. So thank you so much, Erica, for joining us. I look forward to building something in the next few minutes with you.
Excellent. I'm so pleased to be here. And it's been great working with you, Karen and Glennon, in preparation for this. I see a couple familiar faces in the crowd as well. So happy to get started. And we're going to hand it off to me. So let me share my slides now, everyone.
Sure, take your time.
All right, jump too far ahead. Our focus today, can everybody see? Are we on sharing yet?
Don't see it yet.
That's always the way. There we go.
That's great. Thank you.
It always helps to have the slides. All right. So our focus today is really going to be on the virtual learning and teaching environment that we're all experiencing now, and thinking about how to support families with some of these at-home activities. So first of all, we just wanted to find out from all of you. We know you're tackling big challenges and you're doing an amazing job. So if you can just sort of weigh in on which of these are a biggest challenge for you, and you can select more than one. Technology, not being able to connect with students in the same way to help and support them, planning time, if that's an issue, communication with families, and just overall doing things differently.
So we'll give everyone another 20 or 30 seconds to reply to the poll, and then we'll share out the results. We've had about half of our group participate. We'd encourage everyone to participate. So we'll give it another 20 or 30 seconds. Yeah, sorry.
You can only
Unfortunately,
pick only one.
You can only pick one. Just pick your biggest challenge.
I like you.
User error on our behalf, but if you could just pick your biggest challenge. And with that, I'm going to do a last call, 5 seconds to submit. Okay, I'm going to end the poll and share the results.
All right, so it looks like just not being able to connect with students in the same way is a big challenge, and I know that's an emotional burden too for all the educators that I know, and some of the students as well. That's really a tricky one. Technology, again, it's always going to be part of it on our end and on the students' end, and then you know the communication with families. But there are some things we can do as well, and some things we've heard from other educators about being sort of what's been a possibility. So in thinking about that, knowing that technology is a challenge, but some people have actually seen and reported that families and students are actually teaching each other how to use technology. So that's sort of a positive that's come out of that. Not being able to connect with students in the same way to help and support them is huge. And I know this isn't true for all the students, but we've heard again from some educators that this has allowed some students to actually work more deeply, sort of without that distraction of some of their peers and other things. They're just able to engage with the learning in a different way. Someone said that they have more time to actually assign art and do design challenges themselves with our new situation. And then, you know, doing things differently is a challenge, and it's also an opportunity. So I know that, you know, I'm not trying to discount the challenges that we're all facing and that you all are really facing head on, but that idea that the opportunity to do things differently is sometimes sort of fun and a way to embrace a little bit of something you might have put off, or as a school you might not have wanted to try, and just really taking the leap. Again, back to who I am. The tech has been around. The Tech Interactive is in San Jose, California. And for those of you who've never been there, we have a focus on design challenge learning. And we've, for longer than our building has existed, we've been doing this thing called the Tech Challenge. So for 4th through 12th graders, we launch it in October in the fall usually. And then have it be something that people are coming to a showcase, which you can see a picture on the left there, in April or May, that students are working in teams with a team advisor to address a challenge. In this case, it was, can you design a device to survive a 10-foot drop and then deliver a payload to a target area? And then on the right, there's a version that made out of very homemade materials that we had students in an after-school program do as part of their curriculum. So trying to, again, reach all students and give them access to design challenges, but wanted to sort of highlight the different ways that you can do a challenge in person and with sort of homemade materials, and lean into that a little bit more in this discussion. A design challenge is a way to use real-world problems to engage learners in an iterative design process. And this is our representation of it, with very sort of open, friendly words around imagine, create, test, and reflect. The more metacognitive pieces of defining your problem and sharing your solution. And then that outside ring is some innovator mindsets that we're trying to foster in students. So it's not just a STEM lesson, it's really a lesson in how are you developing these other traits of being bold, curious, perseverant, collaborative, and empathetic. Some key features of design challenges that we like to emphasize are that it's solvable by multiple solutions, right? So there's not one single answer. There's not one way to drive the students, and that really puts the learning in their hands. there's opportunities for iteration. So there's ways to test and get feedback and improve your designs, whether it's a physical build or a system solution. And then there are ways within that design challenge to really connect with participant interest, for them to explore and research, connect with literature and art, with history, with other areas of interest. And connected with that is making explicit connections to real world problems and careers. So how can you build that sense of ability and identity for students around STEM learning, and then translate that into possible careers and real world problems that they really desire to connect with, and really makes a difference in their perspective on how they can connect with the world and make a difference in the world. So we're going to do a design challenge today, thinking about some of those key features. Our hook, our story with our paper challenge is that San Francisco fog has become a huge problem. It always is a problem. And the city wants to design a building that will give people a glimpse of the sun above the clouds. So with your one piece of paper, we're going to have you use tape and scissors. We're going to give you a few minutes to build. Some criteria: we want you to have a tower that stands on its own. And the constraints: we're going to have 3 minutes-ish to build. I always play around with the timing. You can only use 5 inches of tape and 1 piece of paper. If you have a small one, that's fine. If you have 8.5 by 11, that's fine. If you want to get creative with a Post-it, go for it. So think about how you can really cut, fold, and tape your paper to make it stable and tall. I love seeing some people starting to build already. And we're going to share out our solutions in a little bit, but I also wanted to share another tool that we've developed that's really helpful and been helpful for families. We've created little videos that help frame challenges and kind of just get you started with thinking about it and thinking about the process and materials you might use. So while you're building, I'm going to play this short video.
And Erica, before you start that, I just want to, again, just encourage everyone, this is the time at your desk, at your, wherever you are, to take your sheet of paper and start building. We're going to show this video while you do your build. But please take it as an opportunity to kind of listen and be creative at the same time.
Yep, we're all multitasking. And then Glennon, you give me a thumbs up if this is making sound or not.
Okay. No sound yet.
No sound. I know how to fix it. And
there we go.
I finally found it!
To obtain this item, you must build it a tower, worthy enough to hold it.
But I only have 5 pieces of paper, 1 foot of tape, and scissors!
It is the only way to go. There is no number 2.
This is the Tech Interactive at Home.
Let's see how high I can get these 5 pieces of paper to go. So first I'm going to try a triangular prism. Folded my paper into 3 sides because triangles tend to be pretty stable. Oh, it's holding up. Maybe not. I might need to cut the surface area down so that the wind doesn't knock it over so easily. I'm definitely going to try to conserve paper here and fold it into smaller pieces. I'll take 3 sticks and build a sort of tripod that will hopefully keep it standing. So I'm creating this structure that will then support the tower. For the tower, I rolled up tubes of paper that fit in smaller tubes of paper so that the tower will stand up tall. It's finally ready.
Your structure is worthy.
I got the treasure! Wait, it's single ply?
everybody has about another minute to build. That was our 2-minute intro video. That design challenge is slightly different, but just to give you an idea of, another kind of paper towery challenge and how we've created a little bit of a resource. Again, my daughter, who's 7.5, loves watching the videos and can just sort of from there kind of riff off that and start on a design challenge. So that's nice. You can hear my crinkling paper in the background. I'm trying no tape today.
Okay.
How's yours going,
Erica,
Glennon?
I'm going to stop your sharing the screen at the moment, so I can maybe spotlight a couple people and share what they've been building. I see Miriam's building something. I see Rebecca has got something. I'm going to spotlight you real quick, Rebecca, so people can see what you're doing. You've got a tube with kind of some bricks. Very cool. Let me see who else is willing to share. Let me stop the spotlight. Anyone else willing to share or hold your contraption up to, here we go. We've got Bay. Let me spotlight Bay real quick. And we've got Desiree. So Bay, you're on camera. Can you share us your, show us your little contraption? Look at that. Square, rectangle, square. All right, and we're gonna go with Desiree now. So I'm gonna spotlight Desiree. Look at that. Multiple levels, triangle with 2 sides. Very cool. Holding strong. All right, Erica, I'm gonna give it back to you, and we'll proceed.
Excellent. I'm cheating a little bit. I'm leaning mine against the mug, but I don't have any tape, so I think that's allowed today. It'll fall over in the middle of the presentation. All right, so let me share again.
And while Erica's sharing, we're gonna Allison's gonna drop a link in the chat where you can share a picture of your build in our Google Slide Deck Virtual Gallery Walk option. So if you can take a quick photo and share it in those slides, that would be really cool. We'd love to have that.
And you know, a nice thing about this is that again, thinking about different ways with the challenge to introduce. You can send your families a video. You can watch a video with them if you're doing sort of a synchronous situation. You can just send them. We have PDFs, but you can even send them just the text of the simple design challenge, either in an email or a text message. So there's a lot of different ways to share with families sort of synchronously and asynchronously so they can get started on a challenge.
So Erica,
yeah.
One thing that just came in the chat while you're going through this, a wondering that I was going to ask you about later, but may as well address it now. The wondering is whether you would show the video as part of the setup of the design challenge. I know we did our design challenge in 3 minutes and it was really quick, but what would be your typical normal setup if you were going to do this as a learning experience?
So I would say there's no normal, especially now, but the videos are a nice way to sort of as a jumping off point, and having someone else sort of frame the challenge for your students rather than you doing it is sort of a nice way to mix it up. So yeah, that video could be shown at the beginning when you're framing your challenge and introducing it to students. It does give a little bit of suggestions on how you might build, which I know for some folks is a concern, like you don't want to give the students too much of an I think sort of highlighting that here's a jumping off point, but you don't really want to stick with that.
You know, Erica, I was just thinking, as I was thinking about the video, you could show them part of it and then pause it, and then you could have like the reveal later after everyone else had done theirs. So it would be a way to kind of do it in a blended way. Or you could even say, well, now you saw how she did it and you cannot do it that way, so now do it a different way.
Exactly. And then for that debrief too, so we did a little bit of popping around the gallery and collecting what you did in Google Slides. Those are different ways to do it. And then having participants really reflect on how are the towers really similar and different? How was stability created? And how did people get the height with their structures? That's something that students, again, you can discuss if you're doing you know, a video call and doing sort of a gallery view. You can have people reflect on the Google Slides and kind of share out their ideas and write up something for you to sort of digest and make sure that they're engaged with that process piece and really analyzing the structures, even if it is a really quick build. And then you can also have them just sort of talk about their own structure, or what structures and people in their family might have built. So that's a way to do it. I'm going to skip ahead since we kind of did the gallery walk a little bit, and we can see a little bit more of what people design later. But the other nice thing, again, is this is 4 pictures from one family. So you got a little kid who did her tower, made it stable with some tape and a little arch. You've got a 4th grader, it looks like, who did his version, and a couple other versions he did later. So that idea of the opportunity with design challenges in this virtual environment is really how can we engage families in it and have that learning kind of expand into the evening or weekend if it's kind of a fun and engaging challenge. So Parents are now even more than ever your education partners. So what are those ways that we can really engage them with the learning, give them great tools to understand what the design challenge is, what the learning goals are, what role they can play, and what their role isn't, and show them really where the flexibility and fun is in the lesson. So we have a few parent and student-facing resources, again, depending on their age. We started designing, again, doing these videos. We have a great one about delivering puppy treats with wind power, so you should definitely check that out. And an accompanying guide that talks about a cupcake delivery wind challenge. So those are, again, a nice way to give a couple pages worth of scaffolding and some ideas around materials that you can just send directly to families, so you don't have to create an additional resource. And then the videos, again, is the different way to engage with the challenge and introduce it, whether that's synchronous or asynchronous. And then we've done some really short design challenges, right, where people can just go in and see a little bit of a prompt and then get started on it. We also developed some parent guides, so they can think about what their role is and really focusing them on giving access to materials and tools, having parents think about the time and the space in order to providing that for the design challenge, providing encouragement, maybe building alongside, and then some questions that they can ask about the designs that their kids are making, and then encouraging them not to do the building themselves for their student, to allow for frustration, allow for the students to wrestle with their own ideas and really try a new skill. Like maybe they are using a drill for the first time if they're in 5th or 6th grade. Maybe they are trying their hand at, again, connecting things and doing something differently. So the resources that we've got that are really kind of a help for these things are, again, the parent-facing resources that we have in Spanish and in English on 2 separate web pages. So the tech.org/incasa and the tech.org/at-home. And those have, again, the design challenge guides, some videos, links to videos, and a parent tip sheet. And then we have other resources for you. So thinking about what are some of the deeper kind of pieces of design challenges. With that innovation design process, how can you have students reflect on those mindsets that we mentioned earlier? And so all of that's on our educator resources page, so the tech.org/resources. And again, that has these tech tips, more involved lesson plans that you might, they connect with ELA or put a design challenge into a social studies or a history setting, some computer science resources, and then videos about some design challenges too that, again, are set more in a classroom context, which we'll get back to eventually, but you might have to adapt them for remote learning or a blended kind of classroom. So I'm gonna pause a little bit there and see if Karen or Glennon have anything to add, or if we want to pull something from chat to talk about.
I think we're good in terms of anything to add. At this point, I'd really encourage people. I'm going to stop your share real quick, Erica, and we'll get people onto the feedback survey. But I'd also encourage people to submit any questions that you have via the chat at this time. And let me share my screen real quick. And it's great. I'm seeing people share their photos in the virtual gallery walk. So we'll take a minute and look at that as well. So please share your feedback via the Google form. Our upcoming episode is going to be the superpower of celebration. So really focusing on celebrating successes and making connections with students. Our resource of the week comes from KQED, and it's really supporting how families engage with each other and how to keep a tone of peace in your home. So we encourage you to take a look at that. Any ideas that were shared in the chat, we'll be sure to add to our slide deck at the end. And again, please share with us on social media. And the call for proposals is certainly open, and we're excited about the virtual event. So now I'm going to pop over to our slide deck of our virtual gallery walk, and let's share this out. So this one doesn't have a name attached to it, but thanks for sharing. Larissa shared this very creative design with an exploratorium ruler to show how tall it was. Very cool. Desiree Whitmore shared this triangle with 2 sides. Again, we're missing a name, but a very tube and ray of sunshine looking. And we've got a stack with multiple papers like that. So Sarah went a little outside the parameters of our challenge, but no rules can't be broken.
I don't know. I think Sarah might have just cut her paper. I'm going to be on
okay.
Sarah's side for that.
Okay, I like it. We have some line paper. Line paper is acceptable. We have spots with different tape from Albert, showing all his spots of tape with three-part base.
I love the labels. The labels are great.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so,
and I love just seeing the different ways people sort of built and created stability and made their designs their own.
So with that, now we're on to questions and answers, and we're happy to address any questions. One of the thoughts that came to mind for me as we were talking about this, we certainly talked a little bit about this earlier, but can you maybe, I know there's not necessarily a norm, but when you're introducing this with a family, what are some of the key instructions or key parameters that you put in place to make them successful? And do you encourage families, instead of say you only have one attempt at this, do you encourage them to say, let's see how many times we want to try this and have it be a game that happens multiple times?
Yeah, I think never one attempt. Even if you stop them after one attempt, like we did today, that it would be like, great, now you saw what everybody else did. I want you to go off and build something tonight, tomorrow, and then share back sort of a new design you made and how you incorporated some of those ideas. So that idea of, again, encouraging collaboration and encouraging as much iteration as possible, so that they have that idea of, even if I stop you and we share at this point, that design can happen ongoing, right? That the world is changeable. So I'm going to stop you and have you share, but don't worry about that final product and stress about that, right? It's, oh, this didn't work, great. Well, what did work, and what can you try next time? And even if there's not a literal next time for them to work on that, you want to have, giving them that perspective is really great.
You know, Erica, I was thinking that if they had done it one time and then they try it again, you could even say, okay, now you had the paper, the tape, the scissors, and you get to now choose one other item, your free choice, and then see what sort of creative things that they might add into it as they, try to improve the tower.
Yeah, and I think that really the opportunity that we have now, especially in the last couple of weeks of school and then potentially next fall again, is trying different things. So having really short challenges you try, having longer ones that are really embedded in part of a unit, relating them to different topics, giving them, again, more flexibility in some challenges and less in others, and varying the way you're doing the interactions, right? When are there asynchronous and no tech or low tech things? Where are there times for all the tech to come in, and you're pushing them to also incorporate that new tool, that technology tool? Really make it different, make it your own, and allow for students to make it their own as well.
Excellent. I'm going to quickly call out our winner for today, who's going to get a prize from the Tech Museum, and that is going to be Desiree Whitmore. So Desiree, if you can reach out to me via email with your address, we'll be happy to get you a prize mailed to wherever you'd like. So congratulations to Desiree. At this point, we're right at noon, and we are at the formal conclusion of our programming, but happy to stay on and answer any questions that you have via the chat. So if there are additional questions, please stay around. We will be happy to answer any questions. Also, again, please complete the feedback survey. Really appreciate it. It really guides where we go with our future episodes and the topics, and we're excited about next week and sharing the superpower of celebrating and how to connect with students. And so I'm going to turn it over to the chat to see if there's any questions. And if there aren't any questions, we'll wrap up fairly soon. Karen, do you have a question in mind?
I was just thinking about what you were saying about next week, the superpower of celebration. And I know that some of the things we'll be talking about is not just celebrating the big and little wins, from this school year, but also helping people prepare for how do you build a relationship and celebrate that with the new school year coming. And so we'll be looking at closure and also new openings.
And so,
Yeah, and
Erica, as
yeah,
you think
go ahead.
about this and the topic of celebrating, what are some things that you've done to celebrate the success or the failure of a design challenge? Part of design challenges, I think, is celebrating failure as well,
Yeah.
because that's part of learning.
Yeah, no, that's a huge part of it. Again, pushing students to really take risk. I again have seen in my own daughter and in other youth I've worked with, like there's people who are just like, yeah, I can take a risk, no problem. I'm gonna just put myself out there. And then other folks who really are struggle with it. And so that idea of by celebrating the different contributions that people are making, celebrating the perseverance, celebrating iterations, celebrating how people are using data to inform their designs. So looking more deeply at the process piece and celebrating those pieces instead of this one worked and it wins, it gets an A. Really, how are you honoring the work that folks are doing in other areas of that design process, in their collaboration and those pieces, and the way you celebrate it, the way you don't shy away from it, right? Of like, oh great, it didn't work. Tell us all which part you think didn't work and why, and what you're going to try next. Like, what did you learn from that? So the celebration and the focus on growth and is definitely important for all things, and design challenges are a nice way to sort of highlight that piece.
So Albert's asked a question, and I'm going to actually, before I ask Albert's question, another way that I've seen, people, Erica mentioned that some people aren't willing to jump in right away. They're hesitant. One thing that I've done is when in groups, and maybe a family takes this, and there's a group of 3 or 4 doing a design challenge as a team, you can have one person be the recorder. And so they can make notes and take notes as the first entry point. So they don't necessarily have to do the design challenge with the other 3. They can take notes on the process. And that's an easy way to kind of set the clause in and get them engaged in what's going on. So that is another potential tool. So Albert's asked, how can we facilitate more difficult concepts for design challenges at higher grade levels, such as doing circuits, when there is a concern for students not having enough resources at home? I think that's, personally, I think that's a constant tension. One idea I have that I'll share, and then I'll let Erica respond, is that instead of using the actual circuit material, you could make household materials and make a model based on those different household materials, or you could do drawings. I think, in this time, we have to be very conscious of the fact that people don't have access to a lot of stuff that they may have access to at school. And so the other thing that you might look into as a school is, as part of giving out, I know, for example, Maker Ed, as part of giving out lunches at Oakland Unified, they're also giving out maker kits as part of the lunch distribution process. So that could be another way to get the resources into students or families' hands. But Erica, do you have any ideas on that?
Yeah, sort of similar. Thinking about different ways to give the students access without diluting the experience. So again, if you can get things organized and get some kits out, maybe that's sort of, again, an idea for next year if students are still not in the classroom 100% of the time. That takes a little bit of doing or linking into some of the groups that are doing that. There are also, for like circuitry and other pieces, there are some nice online simulations. So if the students have a computer and internet access, then that's a nice option for some of the physics concepts and those pieces. So that's another way. And then a third way is, again, thinking about different ways to engage. And you can't necessarily replace, if you can't do circuits and you can't do a computer simulation, then it's hard to replace that. But having the students, again, look at some things that they can sort of safely take apart at home and look at the internal circuitry and how it works, maybe a broken toaster or something else, and then be able to draw and diagram and just start sort of thinking and pulling that apart as another way to do those concepts. And then some system solutions is always a good way to go, right? How are you thinking about the things in your house and how they're connected and how they might be connected to the electrical grid, and what sort of a research project you can do to sort of highlight how that works and what are some of the challenges faced with that.
And I'll also add that Rudy has thrown into the chat that you can do circuits with batteries and aluminum foil at home. So there are low tech or less tech oriented circuits. An easy way to do circuits that's pretty less cost intensive is also paper circuits. So with sending home some copper tape and a battery to families might be a way to do that. And I've seen one really fun design challenge with paper circuits. If you have a paper circuit, which would be a battery, some copper tape, and an LED light, you can incorporate that with a picture book. And so how do you make something on the picture or a piece of art light up based on your fingers coming together and holding the tape? So you have like a press here button and it lights up. You know, you've seen that in a lot of Hallmark cards and things like that, but you can make that a design challenge and infuse both the circuitry and the creativity components of it.
If you're willing to tear apart an old string of lights,
Mm-hmm.
you can get a
Christmas
lot of lights
lights.
out of one string and do some things with batteries and foil, like you were saying. So it's,
Sure. Okay, I'm going to do a last call for questions. We're happy to stick around as long as there are questions. If you haven't done so already, we'd greatly appreciate you filling out the feedback survey. That's a great help. I'm going to also just pop over and make sure I didn't miss anybody in our virtual gallery walk. See if we do have a few new additions. So let me share my screen real quick and we'll take a quick look at our new additions to the virtual gallery walk. So we got present and we have Rudy with lots of computers and electrician stuff going on nearby. I love that, Rudy.
I like the dipod. He had two feet at the bottom.
Yeah, dipod. I like the term. You don't hear that term very often. We have Evelina with a multi-piece, multi-sized tower build. We have Debbie in front of her computer as well. And that's the end. So let me stop sharing and see if any other questions came in via the chat.
And while you're looking at questions, Glenn, I was just going to say that too, you know, starting off with whatever design challenge, sort of just taking the leap, pulling one that seems doable and fun for you, and making it happen for your students. I know that one school, El Roble, is using it for their 5th graders as just a way for them to really connect with each other. So they do a design challenge and then come together for a big sharing session. So it's a really nice way to sort of, again, build camaraderie and build in the interaction that the students are missing.
Excellent. Well, if there aren't any additional questions, we're going to go ahead and close out the call. Thanks again, everyone. Please make sure to fill out the feedback survey. Allison has also dropped the link for next week's session. We are really excited to have Shelley Fox from Math Genes join us, and we're going to talk about celebrating successes, mistakes, failures. I think it's really important. Part of design challenges is to really celebrate the process more than the product. Sometimes we always have competitions where you celebrate the end result, but design challenges are really about celebrating the process. And the process, and when learning happens, is when mistakes are made, when there's frustration and you persist past that. So celebrating persistence, celebrating iteration are really great things to do, and design challenges really help facilitate that. So want to thank you, Erica, for such a wonderful session. It was great having you, and we look forward to seeing everyone next week.
Thanks so much for having me, and great work, everyone. Thanks for joining today, and keep going.
That's awesome. Take care, everyone.
Take care. Bye, everyone.